one-on-one pack worth of coaching. Now, here's how it's going to work, though. I've done this like a few times from last year. And for anyone that's not here right now joining us live, no worries. We're going to be doing this numerous times throughout 2025. You're not missing out too much just yet. But Chuck, Grant, Jeff, Bell, Wendy, all of our members inside our live trading room, here's how we're going to play this. We're going to finish Traders Talk at 1 o'clock Eastern Time today in 53 minutes. Everyone that wants to participate right now in our live trading room, I want you to just guess what the price of the SPY, of this right here, SPY, will be at 1 o'clock Eastern Time coming up in 53 minutes from right now. Closest prediction will win. How about that? Pretty straightforward, right? So just go right now. You could type your guess right now. One entry per participant. You can't say multiple prices. But, for Lee, Elena, all of our students here, just by 1 p.m. Eastern Time today, for instance, 700. I don't think this is going up to $700 by 1 p.m. Let's just be honest there. A more realistic price by 1 o'clock Eastern Time later today. You're looking at the SPY, basically the S&P ETF moving up and up and up. Started off today around 605.50. Right now it's at 607 and change. So by 1 o'clock Eastern Time, you only have one entry though. So I'm going to let Elena do a redo there for hers perhaps. But, everyone else, just type your answer right now. Closest prediction will win. Now, again, if you're joining us on YouTube right now, just scan the QR code, follow, subscribe to our live trading room, join us there. And, we'll be doing a couple more little raffles throughout this whole calendar year. So there's that. We'll come back to that at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. 1 o'clock Eastern. You got me there for that. Now, as you continue to guess, if anyone didn't type yet, you got time. No sweat. But let's go over a bunch of different trades, at least from earlier today. We still have earnings to talk about. We have to talk about swing trades as well that both Fausto and myself are currently in. We have email questions that were submitted from students. And, of course, everyone's favorite, we're talking a little Bitcoin here at the end as well. So let's go over the BLBX trade. There's two day trades I want to jump into here, though, to start. The BLBX, this stock was looking pretty good going into the market open, going into 9:30 in the morning. And here's why. I mean, A, we know it popped. We know that there's some sort of news that came out. Stock's up big percentage-wise at that point. What's the trend of the stock going into the market open? From 8:30 to 9:30, from 9 o'clock to 9:30. It's not like this is breaking down. It's not like this is making lower lows. So that's what I'm thinking. This looks very strong heading into the opening bell here, right before 9:30. So I felt very compelled as if, hey, maybe this could pop higher. Maybe this could build a new higher low and then break resistance to make a higher high. Now, what's easy to say in hindsight now at this point is that did not happen at first. It pulled back immediately after the market opened. I turned away at that point because we're waiting the first 5 minutes, right? Like all of our students, you know this, but we're waiting the first 5 minutes. And I mean, not really within what, the first two bars? The first two bars, it just crashes. We're moving on to other stuff at that point. It's a little unfortunate. This didn't make that big pop that you were looking for, at least initially. But it did though, right? It eventually broke out, made a nice push later on. Let's actually just recap this move and where the better levels were for this trade. I was teaching class just before with a lot of our students. I didn't take part in this move just before as it broke out, but it made the right move off of the level that I plotted, the levels that I took the time to put on my chart right before this. So let me show you what bookmap looked like, the heat map that is, at least for Black Box. It's an AI company, Black Box Stocks. I feel like a lot of us online may have heard this company before, this name. If not, all good. But it's just to say at least there's some sort of AI type of company relating to the stock market, financial sector. All right, so basically when you look at this heat map here right before the opening bell, it's pretty tough to analyze. There really isn't anything I'd feel overtly confident in using as far as like, oh, clean breakout here, right at 360. Yeah, there's an orange line, but it showed for what, maybe like 10 minutes? It popped up at 9:48. It got broken through at 9:58. So is that some long-standing order that's been out there for hours on end? Not really. So there were a couple little levels like that even before this 360 point. So I don't really see that dark red, dark orange going across the whole page. If anything, there's like a lighter orange here right at $4. I said this to one of our students earlier as he was trading pre-market. For a cheap stock like this, naturally, you do want to focus on the 50 cent and dollar levels to work off of. That's just an assumed, strategy. $3, 3.50, $4. That's all in my head as assumed levels. Bookmap still doesn't even show that as evidently here at 350. Like maybe some volume building up underneath 350 here. You still can't really pinpoint a strong level. Now, well, we're going to go back towards this in pre-market, at least within the first, what was it, the first? Yeah, right around here, right before 8:30. This starts to show a lot better, though. This is like during pre-market from the initial pop to where it started to build back up here again. It does look as if right around, we'll say 3.15, right around $3.15, there seems to be at least a decent chunk of volume being traded and filled there compared to everything else above and below it. Now, you still had another like 45 minutes to go until the market opened up. But if we were to put a line on this trade at 315, let's just see how that 315 level panned out as like support, as resistance here. Again, that's just a volume-based level. It looks like it's not going to be perfect either. Pretty close. It's decent. It's good. 320, 321. It was kind of holding this here as support for a few moments here prior to the opening bell. So right away, it breaks below this range. It breaks below this area and it tanks. All of our students right now inside our live trading room, I need you to answer this one for me if you can. When a stock breaks below big support and it gets crushed, it tanks from big support, what should that big support get flipped into? Real quick, just for all of our members here, I don't want you posting your personal phone number in our chat board. As much as we're all family here, you don't know me from anything. You don't know any of our students from anything. We're going to contact you there, Juan. Just we don't want you to put your personal info out there, get spammed to oblivion out there. So, I just deleted that post. But, when a stock breaks below big support and it tanks, we should expect that big support to turn into big resistance at first. So I did start to see this move back up. I was watching this with Fausto like on the side. I was like kind of flipping through my book map and I started to see it rev back up. I'm like, all right, maybe, but I was expecting resistance. It popped above it at first, but it's the aftermath that happened after. Of course, this completely failed to hold over. This has support. It broke below it. I was expecting resistance to start, so I wasn't as jumpy. Now, where I would have been jumpy, where I would have been very aggressive with taking this trade, I wasn't able to just because we had class basically happening at the time, coming up, broke below it again here and dropped. I would expect more resistance. I wouldn't be expecting this to just pop and run instantly. Now, it's much like we always teach in our main classes, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Give me a quick moment here. I still have my PowerPoint slide up. For all of our members on YouTube, if you're not a part of CTU just yet, this is our main curriculum that we teach all throughout the calendar year. It's basically a rotating cycle of classes. In most of these classes, I go over this strategy here that I'm about to say. The more times that we can keep seeing a resistance, a big level, getting poked at, getting nipped at, on the way up preferably, it's going to break, right? Popsicle stick theory, right? So broke below it as support again. It crashed. This thing absolutely got crushed here for about 50 cents down. So it should be resistance again. And it was. This was not so easy at first because rightfully so, it was resistance. But the more that it keeps nipping and testing that big level on the way up, I'm thinking, all right, well, something's got to give here, right? So finally, it eventually made that cleaner push where it broke back over it. It flipped this area into support and then flew. This thing absolutely ran the way that you'd want it to. It just took a little bit of like elbow grease. Took like an hour and a half almost for this move to really materialize. So, looked good in pre-market. Goes to show though, something I should have said even beforehand. We teach this in our class too, but by 9:10, 9:15, get the hell out of your trade here. Allow the stock a chance to breathe and relax before the opening bell. Because obviously, in hindsight, you saw this thing just pop and drop immediately after. There was no point in trying to hang on to this trade, right? So allow the stock a chance to breathe and relax before the market opens up. You know what else? Allow yourself to take a deep breath and relax, take a sip of water, and see what happens at least afterwards, right? So you weren't missing much. It ended up making that better move just later on, but it played it perfectly to how we want it to work. The more times resistance keeps getting poked at in a smaller span of time, we're going to get that eventual pop, that eventual breakout there. So, all right. So that's black box. Now at this point, what goes up comes back down. It actually did flip this back again into support, but I don't remember the last time I traded this thing. Give me a quick moment. Oh shoot, give me a quick sec here. Do I have my Benzinga up? Just show my Benzinga Pro here. I just want to take a look at the float. Like, when was the last time we even traded this stock? I don't recall. So it's basically to say that I'm expecting this to be a very low float stock. Just give me a moment. All that good stuff from Benzinga here. All right, let's get to the float for black box. 2.5 million share float. You know what I mean? That's tiny. That's microscopic float. How much volume is this stock trading right now today? Trading 137.5 million shares on a 2.5 million share float. Look where this lands later on at 4 o'clock today, right? You're going to see this thing continue to dump off over time. Now, that's the case with a lot of these day trades, a lot of these stocks that are popping off of news, that are making a pretty good push. So this eventually made its pop, but took some time. ASST trade was also a stock I was kind of interested in. The difference between this and the black box was that this already popped way early in the morning, and this was on a pretty steady trend down off the highs, well before 8 o'clock. But even with this bounce here, in relation to the more relative recent trend from earlier, yeah, it's up percentage-wise, right? We know that. It could pop, but the sheer fact that this for the last 3.5 hours has been making lower highs, trending down more. We're not really seeing as much buying pressure here on the ASST trade as we did on black box. So again, it could pop. We could see that buying pressure come in, but prove it. Let me see it. So that's where here it did prove itself to us at first. It popped right away when the market had opened up. But even after the first 5 minutes, this provided a great ability for you to take this trade. And let me show you. So much like we had said, kind of just alluding to it before, an assumed thought would be 50-cent levels and whole numbers. Like $1 here should be big support. After that, $1.50 should be big resistance. After that, up top, probably would be 2. Now, it never hit 2, right? It didn't hit 2. But 150 would be a clean resistance to initially think about. Like, oh, there's probably some iceberg there. Especially if it's a larger one, that's one that you'd want to take more seriously. Okay, well, let's just jump right back to Bookmap here. I got all sorts of crap up here. I probably took this off my screen already. I did. All right, give me a second. Load this up on my Bookmap. I'll just give you a raw reaction here. Hey, if you're joining us on YouTube right now as well, just follow us at CyberTradingU. We look forward to having you inside our live trading room down the line, but I see a few of us joining us here. Lumo. Lumo, for your guess on the SPY, that's particular to our live trading room. So you got to be in our room right now to participate there. But, we're happy that you're joining us on YouTube right now. Here is the Bookmap for ASST. And this doesn't look too clean. This doesn't really look that easy on the eyes at first, right? I mean, as far as a dark beat red line, I don't see too much. This orange line shows at 170. It's about 69,000 shares. And it is out there since 8 o'clock in the morning. The longer that price shows, I'll take it seriously. This is like an hour and 15 minutes worth. A lot better than just 10 minutes, 15 minutes, like the other example. So 170 is like providing some sort of level here, right? It actually shows on the CVP column too. Not only is there an iceberg at 170, but you have a prominent spike there, that CVP column, right under it. So I like that as an area. Resistance right there. Now, it looked like there was some sort of support. It looked like there was some sort of support maybe, right? Look at this. It's all sorts of algos and blotchy orange lines that are showing up, disappearing, showing up. Well, it looks easy because out of all of the little short-lived orange lines here, almost looks blurry, but, right around 150. So you'd figure 150 as a level anyway. there really isn't much else that I'm a fan of. None of the volume around here stands out to me as much. Perhaps when the market opens up, you'd see like an opening bell print, big ball, big dot on the heat map here. Well, essentially what this does is it just begins to make its push, right? It just kind of begins to push up. It does flip this like peak. It's not like a big level. It's not like I'm relying on that to be a massive resistance, but at least this was a peak. Once it broke over this peak and ran, well, it did flip that peak into support. So, that's easier to look at after the fact, but I wouldn't have really relied on this as a massive major resistance off of this one spike. Now, if this was holding specifically for a couple of points in a row after, before the opening bell, I would. If there was a massive iceberg at 142, I'd absolutely call that a key level. I would say, though, just by the time it really pops and begins to break out nicely here, maybe then at that point, then you could say, okay, well, if this was resistance, and since the stock broke over that and it ran up like 10, 12 cents, if that was resistance, then there's a thought for that to be support. There's a lot of ifs and maybes involved with what I just said there, right? So clearly it worked out for a little while. It did flip this into support initially, and it did push up. Where did it hit resistance? Where did it have resistance there, folks? What do we got? 168, 170 next, right? It's unfortunate, but after it flipped that little peak into support, it actually hit the real next level. This wasn't a clean level at first. It became one, but this was the better resistance to focus on based off of both of those, volume things that we just kind of looked at. The iceberg, that was at 170. And then also just, that big spike of volume on the far right side there, right? We showed that just before. There. And then, again, we had this orange red line here, 76,000 shares now. So it's not a surprise that after this made that initial burst and move up here, it hit resistance next. Unfortunately, it failed to break it, even trying to break over it, push over it, but it came right back down, right? So ASST, if you want me to look at it, I will, but I just assume this is some low float stock as well. So it's just the theme. 7.3 million shares, that's very low as well, at least by nature. So everyone has their own number as far as how low is low. The more that you're with us in our trading room, you'll begin to feel what we define as low. I don't have a number to give you like 10 million or 5 million or just the lower. It's more unreliable. It's even more pop and drop-ish. I'm going to keep bringing this one up here over time. This one is a nightmare. This is a dumpster fire stock. XXII. This thing made a big pop like a few times last week or whatever. I was screaming this from the mountaintops here. A sore throat from yelling it so much. This was on a 500,000 share float. I don't think I've ever seen a stock on a 500,000 share float before. That is microscopic. So I stayed away from this thing for that reason to begin with, and then you see what happened to it. Well, if it could happen to that stock, it could still certainly happen to ASST. It could certainly happen to the black box, right? So once the music stops, you better find your seat. Once the foot's taken off the gas pedal, well, the stock is going to either continue to go up or it's going to go the other direction. It's not just going to stall out and stop for you. So that's where I say you got to be sure to get out when you can. And even here, after this kind of peaked here, what time is this on the black box trade? Just going back to that, 10:49, 10:50 in the morning. Okay, it's not 10:30 on the nose, reversal time, but it's within that range. We say 15 minutes before, sometimes a little after, not too much. Within that general vicinity, this stock absolutely reversed and dumped right back down. So those are things that we'll incorporate as well into our mindset, our thought process of, is this worth it? Is there enough juice left to squeeze out of this trade? Things of that nature. Now, really quick, if you have any questions as a student, I see Anton here, Piyush, Anna, Grant, all of our members here right now in chat. Let me know. Any questions for you? Let me know. Let me actually just jump to my agenda here. I have a little agenda that I'm going over some stuff with here. So, we went over the black box, the ASST. I want to go over some earnings. A couple earnings things really quick, right? Not too much. just we're heading back into earnings season, right? We had the banks report a week or two ago. Now we got some name brand companies this week, then definitely next week, the next few weeks after that, you got all the good ones. Um, Two name brand stocks that reported from this morning and from last night. I just want to mention United Airlines and then after that, Netflix. So it's kind of to ask, okay, how do you trade a stock coming off of earnings? Notice how I say that coming off of earnings, not going into the earnings. So I know there's some people out there that like truly like gambling and just saying, oh, maybe the stock can make some 5%, 7% pop. Maybe I can catch it. Maybe, but I'm not putting all my eggs in the basket of maybe. I'm trying to, put my eggs in the basket of what happens more often than not. So, unless if I have a serious hunch about the company, their financials, what's ahead, I ain't doing that. A swing trade's a swing trade. So, if you're going to have to hang on for a swing trade or you're collecting dividend, do that. Perfect. But if you're trying to like gamble and just throw a dart against the wall hoping it lands, that's not what we do here at CTU. So, we weren't as like familiar with UAL like financials, company information prior to their earnings. We're going to wait. We're going to trade after the earnings come out, right? Coming off the earnings report. So easy to say in hindsight, this completely washed out its earnings pop from 4 o'clock yesterday. How is the market doing right now, by the way? Just checking in on our SPY. Again, just for all of our members here inside our live trading room, stay tuned. At the end of Traders Talk, we'll raffle off that pack of coaching. But the SPY is actually up today. Why the hell is UAL down? It's actually negative on the day now. You'd figure with the pop in the after hours that there had to have been some good news, good earnings. Maybe they beat revenue. I'm not going into the earnings right now. I'm just going to go into like the levels in which this stock traded off of. And then from there, basically seeing like why it continued to drop. We know that it is dropping now and it did drop earlier. Well, where was the big support for you to focus on here? How could you have saved your ass on this trade if you were expecting a pop and clearly it did not? Okay, so let's even go back to yesterday and the pop, right? That was a good pop. All right, so it took off right away, pulled back. Right away, though, I could see here, looking at that CVP column, big spike of volume. It's from consolidation, but that likely will be some resistance, some support heading into today. Okay, so that's that. That was at like 114.50 or something. Let's look at the pre-market data here otherwise. Resistance at 120. That's out there all since 7 o'clock in the morning. So, you definitely treat that as resistance. That would be a nice target if this does continue to push up. And hey, this is trending up leading into the market open. It's going up. It's looking great heading into the market open. So, hey, if I'm looking to trade earnings, this would look great, at least from this point of view. The question begs, though, where do we have resistance that we can get the breakout from? Is there going to be support that could build? Looks like there is resistance that builds right before the market opens, right here at like 117 and change. It would have to be out there for a longer period of time for me to start respecting that more. So right away, market opens. It's still there for a little bit. But either way, UAL drops. It just drops right away back down below this line and it drops off pretty quickly. So support should turn into resistance. The more times that this is nipping and testing this level, there's a thought. All right, hey, like the more that this can nip and test this going up, even right here, like this is after the first 5-minute marker, 9:36, right? And let's start taking trades after the first 5 minutes. This is breaking through this big level that we identified from the after hours. It's breaking through this big level on the way up. That is quite literally everything that I say as far as my catchphrases go, right? That's everything that I look for an entry. Once it breaks back over this level, why not think, good earnings, this can move up towards this resistance here, maybe if not higher up to 120. If you took this trade, if you came to me on a coaching session and you're like, hey, Josh, I jumped in right over this line here. I plotted it out from pre-market, the CVP. I'd say, all right, that's a great stab at it. That's a good entry. Really quick, for Robert, Wendy, Barb, got Chris, got a lot of us just joining us here, especially longtime students. When a stock breaks through a big level and we jump in, what should we just simply be expecting shortly after? right? What's my catchphrase there? When a stock breaks through a big level and I jump in, simply put, what are we expecting shortly after? What do we got? A big move, right? When a stock breaks through a big level, I feel like I'm one of those wind-up dolls again, one of those Woody drawstring dolls. You pull the string from the back, you say the same 4 catchphrases. No, but seriously, when a stock breaks through a big level, regardless, up or down, we are getting a big move. After I jump in and I'm using this type of movement here, very shortly after my entry, I'm getting one of two things to happen. This is either going to make a big move up or it's going to make a big move down. Either way, we're getting a big move. That's my thought process. I have that in my head as I jump in. So if this was, if someone came to me and they took this as a trade and entry, I'd say great stab. That's a great attempt. It was retesting. It's a big level, clearly, that we identified. Now, though, if it's not going to make that better run, you better get the hell out by the time this pulls back below this level again, right? If it's not going to make that big move up, it's going to make a freaking big move down. And that's exactly what happened here, right? We know that in hindsight. All right, well, not every trade is going to work out the way that you forecasted it, right? That's what we're doing. We're forecasting. We're trying to use strategy with making our entry. But for anyone that was interested in UAL this morning, you were interested in it because you saw it was up off of earnings. And more often than not, you're looking for another move up after the market opens. Pretty good forecast to me. If it doesn't work out, though, you better realize that very quickly, right? Fausto says it himself. The 30-second rule. This was 42 seconds. So not exactly 30 seconds, but about 42 seconds. Oh, no, actually more. It's a minute and 42 seconds. It's a minute and 42 seconds, basically. From the time it pops over this price to the time in which it breaks back under this price. It's not 30 seconds, but it's soon enough, right? You know pretty quickly after it fails to make that better move up, it's going to make a better move down, unfortunately, from there. So, all right, so that's that. That's a simple one to go over, right? Because, I mean, hey, look at it now. It's just still dropping. So clearly, you can't just buy the stock off the news. Just because it's popping, just because news came out, that's not the reason to jump in. But here, there was a good reason to jump in, given that we had a lot of big volume filled here from earlier. So if we're going to be right, it's going to start from this price, and then other prices next after. But clearly it didn't. Clearly it didn't back down, right? So that's it. Now, that was UAL. Anyone here, I'm just asking out of curiosity. Just asking to ask right now. I don't have any skin in this game right now. I got all my swing positions I'm showing you right here. I don't think there's one below TKO, right? I think that's all we got. Yeah, I got everything there. So aside from GameStop calls, which I'm losing my shirt on right now, these are all my swing positions I'm in. But, I'll tell you, I don't have any skin in the game for Netflix. Does anyone have a position on Netflix? Like a long-term position from years back, months back? Did you jump in before they reported last night? I'm just asking to ask. They crushed it. They're up 10% now, but they were like 15, 17% in after hours last night. So crazy move. Big fan of Netflix and what they do. Actually, back on the Netflix bandwagon. I was not a fan of them for a little while, just because they were just doing the same old crap. It was like during COVID. They were doing the same old movies and TV shows. They were very hit or miss. Some pretty good, some kind of and they didn't really dabble more aside from that. Then they started getting into live programming and now live sports, live comedy shows. They're really not innovating. They're really changing with the times in that sense. Netflix been around for freaking ever at this point. So, they got to change to try and retain market cap of their business. And they've done that. I'm proud to see it. So, now they're getting more into live sporting and professional wrestling and maybe even like the UFC. We'll see about that. But basically, yeah, big pop in the after hours. What do we got here? Let me ask everyone inside our live trading room. Kerry, Gillis, Wendy, Robert C., all of us here joining us right now there. Where do you see the sharpest spike of volume on the far right side? Far right side. Where do we see that sharp spike of volume? What do we got? What do we got? sharp spike of volume here. Let's see in the chat right now. I was just checking on YouTube, making sure it's going through live there. Yeah, like Glenn, Dennis, Robert, Chuck, Lynn and Randy, Wendy, Roseanne, all of us just answering right there in the chat. Yeah, 985. 985. You could split it down the middle there between 84 and 86. 985. Now that sticks out like a sore thumb. This was all from the after hours. So, it's just for me to say, I'm specifically using that as a key level for this morning. Maybe it could pull back there and bounce off support. If it doesn't, then watch out, obviously. But this is just where I would be using 985 as a clear support level heading into the open. I would clearly be using $1,000 as a level. It's a psychological level. It's an assumed level. We always say, like, oh, the dollar levels, right? Well, what the hell happens when you're working with a $900 stock? Psychologically, millennium number here, 1,000, that is going to, psychologically speaking, be a big level. It's not representing it so far. Like on CVP, nothing is looking good there. There's not really a dark red line here right away, so it doesn't show. But for that price, 1,000, that is a psychological level, much like 100 would be, much like 500 would be. Back a number of years ago, if you're a Bitcoiner, 10,000 was the psychological, so things like that. Now, 1010 is like an iceberg there at least, but point being, market opens up. This unfortunately drops right away. We know that, right? We know that this just tanks immediately. And it tanks to where it touches 985 at first, but this is all within the first 1 minute. This is all within just a few seconds worth of time. So it kind of just hits it right away, but then instantly breaks back below it, right? So once it makes that drop below 985 as a working support and it crashes, I'm moving on. I'm not trying to trade this stock right now because unless if there's a much clearer level going down, like, hey, maybe $950 perhaps. I don't know. Maybe. Doesn't look like it, honestly. But just there could be a better support level. Maybe this thing, 940 perhaps. But once it breaks below that 85 and tanks, and there's no clear level of support after, I'll move on. That's not for me then. I'm not going to try and move the goalposts. I'm not going to try and catch fall knife. Unless if there is a clear defined support level, maybe. But if anything, this 985 support level, much like all of us wrote to me earlier, well, guess what that becomes? It's going to become resistance here over time. Maybe it tried to make the burst out here, but then failed. Now, let's check in with it live coming up, because it's been shipping around this year for a little while. Granted, it seems like the VWAP price is the better resistance here at this point in the morning. It broke above the VWAP price, but back under. Really held under the VWAP perfectly since. Dropped off more. Yeah, this thing is done for the day. Making lower lows here of recent. So I was thinking maybe there's one more chance for it to pop back up, but it's not happening today. And, it might not happen for a couple more days, a couple more weeks at that. But, 985 should still be pretty relevant as a level the next time it gets tested, at least there. All right. All right, so we did a little earnings there right there. So if you have any questions on United or Netflix, we're not doing any other companies. We got more to focus on throughout this week. Next week, we got a whole new slate of companies we'll talk about. But, let me know if you have any questions on those too. Really quick, just go over a couple of updates on swing trades pretty briefly here. You saw Fausto in the morning meeting. I mean, he freaking nailed this trade. I can't, we don't always talk overnight, right? We're different people, but like in the evening, I'm not texting him. He's with his family. So when I saw him do the meeting this morning at 9 o'clock, and he was in Oracle, ORCL from 174 and change, like just over 174, like right here from the after hours. That was a nice entry. That was a great trade, right? And, we're all our harshest critic. He was like, I got in late, but yeah, I guess it's true. But seeing the run after, it was a clean entry. Then obviously the gap up early this morning, right? So that's the icing on the cake. I think he got out on this too, if I'm not mistaken. I think he took his profit just earlier this morning. Maybe it was like right as the market had opened up here, beginning to pull back. You'll have to hear from him exactly tomorrow morning to give you the official update on that. I thought I heard him say he took his profit on that swing trade there from Oracle. Now myself, a couple of things here just pretty quickly. Philip Morris If you are on our YouTube channel right now, you definitely know of this because it's one of our most recent videos that we had posted last week. News came out with FDA approving the official marketing for the Zyn nicotine pouches. Been around for like 5, 6 years at this point. If you know, you know. If you don't know, don't get yourself involved. It's big tobacco turned into big nicotine, right? So trying to find new ways to ingest nicotine at a more safe, less harmful rate. These pouches you put in your mouth, they've been around for a while now. Finally got FDA approval on the marketing aspect of it. So, from last week, once I saw this news come out, right away, I was like, well, who the hell makes Zyn? I forgot. I don't know. Philip Morris does. And just go right to our YouTube channel. You'll find that video right there. I've been kind of annoying and harassing our students inside our live trading room with that video enough. So you know all about it if you're Chuck, Barbara, Keith and Thomas and all of us just here in chat. But that's where I'll tell you, though, just a little update. So obviously, since that time, it pushed up pretty well. Basically, this resistance here, or I'm sorry, this past support level that held, it got broken through, right? Well, that became resistance yesterday, and then it pulled back a little bit today. So I'm still positive on Philip Morris. I'm going to hang on to this for a little bit longer. Looking for this to continue with higher lows over this week, next week. I didn't really have a timeline as far as how long I want to hold on to this trade. I bought it not because the news came out, but more because of where the stock was on the chart. It was right at support. It was a pretty good trade to take right there and then. Not every trade falls into your lap. But, it's just to mention, at this point now, hey, I'll be happy with any profit here at this stage. But looking for higher low, higher high. I would love to see this recover by mid to, end of this week, we'll say. And we'll go from there. Now, new position I took a swing on. Actually, a couple here really quick. ONDS. I was saying this from a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I was looking to jump back in on this trade. I think a couple of us are in on this right now. Maybe Kathleen, if I'm not mistaken. I was saying to all of us here, I was looking for, it was like 208 to 214 to try and hold as support. Maybe it was the 197 here. But basically, within this general vicinity, I wanted to see support build. Took a few days for it to shake around. I was getting a little worried from yesterday, but had a good move back up, and we're pushing back on up for the drone stock, ONDS. So back in on that. It was one that I did from like a month back prior. And then IREN, I jumped back in on this yesterday. Some news came out with, well, I'll just say a firm basically labeled IREN, Bitcoin mining stock, as one of the top plays for digital asset stocks under Trump 2.0. So I felt like that was a very strong headline. That doesn't make me just jump into the trade. Again, I'm looking at more of where the stock is trading in accordance to daily chart levels, support resistance. So if anything, the more that this can build support around like even here, we're looking pretty good. And it has been doing that so far. So with that news report that came out yesterday, I am really looking for a better push on this. Today, tomorrow, Friday. If I don't get what I'm looking for, I'll just get out. And I'm up like 31 cents a share right now on that. We'll see where that takes us. A trade that I like a lot more as a seasonal play. If you've been inside our live trading room, maybe you saw me mention this. If not, I haven't been as assertive with calling this out as opposed to others. So TKO, like knockout, technical knockout right there, right? TKO Group Holdings. Let me ask, probably going to get maybe a 50-50, maybe even less. Anyone here from back in the day or when you were growing up or maybe even just from a couple years back, anyone here a fan of professional wrestling, WWF, WWE, all that good stuff? Or maybe even you follow like boxing or UFC, the fighting nowadays, the MMA. Got a couple of us, right? So TKO is the like wrestling and UFC conglomerate company. Personally, I'm a big fan of like combat sports. I've known of TKO merger for a little while. WWE is always a seasonal play this time of the year. They have their big event, WrestleMania it's called, I think in March or April time. And if you look on the daily chart, or shit, let's just use like a weekly chart here, make it even easier. Go back to like 2017. Watch this here. So from January of 17, it pumped up going into end of February, into end of March, and then it rocketed up after that. But that was a nice seasonal trade. I could probably go every single year from this point forward, even after COVID in 2020, beginning of 2021, ended up starting to rev up, built support, shot up higher. I mean, obviously, it's easy to say that it generally moved up over time, but from January to March is a seasonal play on TKO now, it's called WWE, UFC. Uh, Chuck saying TKO is good actors. If you're talking about the wrestlers, of course. If you're talking about the people behind the board, they got some interesting people on the board, right? Ari Emanuel, I think Dana White perhaps there too. Not Vince McMahon. Not Vince McMahon anymore, that's for sure. But, just to say, I jumped into this yesterday. I am looking for a higher high. I'm looking for a break over 150, new all-time high on this over time, going into March. We'll say either beginning of March, end of March, probably leaning towards the end part of that, like end of March, maybe even early April. I'm going to take it, though, day by day, week by week. I mean, if there's news that comes out or if there's lower highs, lower low, got to make sure you get out, ahead of time there. But, I felt confident about the seasonality behind this move. And with that, right now, I'm like, actually break even on it right now, like down a freaking penny per share. That's all. But, even if it drops a little bit today, I am very confident just about the trend, the pattern going into March time on this. That's all. So that's it. All right. So we covered a lot of ground here thus far. Let's get to some email questions here if we can, and then we'll wrap up. Give me a brief moment here as I check my stream. All right. So this is actually, let's see, go through one more first here, actually. Okay, so here's a question that came in first, actually, prior. This is from one of our students, Kumar will say. He's having a problem on when to get in. When he gets in, putting in a stop loss, it gets sold right away. He needs some input, and he said that he spoke to one of our reps here, my assistant Alex. Alex said that I'd be able to help him. He's lost a little money. He's watched the trading room for 6 months, and he just appreciates it if I can guide him. So the thing is this, right? With following what we're calling out, with what we're advocating for you to look for yourself. If you have access to the Phase 1 stock course, Kumar, that is going to give you the best information possible as far as why we're taking the trades that we are. That's A to Z, everything that we're trying to focus on when it comes to taking a trade. Trading room, watching just the trading room isn't exactly going to make you a great trader. Now, with this workshop in our live trading room, if you are here in this workshop every week, it could help. It's a little band-aid. It could definitely help. But, otherwise, our main curriculum, Phase 1 at least, and then down the line, Phase 2, Phase 3, that's where I'll work with you in our coaching program. That would give us the best ability for you to go in and see why we're doing exactly what we're doing. If I can give you a little short advice here, though, right? I am keeping consistent with my strategy. I don't have a million different reasons to take a trade. I got one reason to take a trade. It's breaking through a big level on the way up. Now, there are some talking points with that one reason to jump in. How do we define a big level? How big is big? On the way up sounds pretty straightforward, but there are some nuances with that, some specifics with that we'd want you to know. I sound a little repetitive here. It's one of my new catchphrases, sayings, or whatever. But anytime we're looking at support, at resistance, think of it like a little popsicle stick. The more times that popsicle stick keeps getting poked at, pressed on, twisted, bent, malleated, it's not like it's getting stronger, right? We said that just previously going over one of these other trades. But the more that you just think about that and not think about everything else, it's not going to make you a millionaire overnight, but it's definitely going to help you clear up a lot of the issues that you may be suffering. Now, when it comes to putting in a stop loss, let's say if you're getting sold right away, that's separate compared to finding good entries, right? If you come to me with a lot of losses, the first thing I'll say is, all right, well, where did we jump in from? You know what I mean? And then if you say, well, my issue is like stopping the losses, it's not the entry. I would then say, incorrect. Every trade begins with the entry portion. So there is a difference between the two. Making sure that we get our entries correct and straight versus putting in that stop loss and making sure that stop loss is incorrectly. So if you are getting stopped out immediately, right away, it likely means that we're not placing the stop the right way that we should be. You could still be having issues with your entry, and that we would want to talk about separately. But basically here, like I'll show very briefly here my like market depth window. I have my stop limit prices here, and I would just want to make sure, like let's say if I put a stop limit order in here, if I click on a price, let's just say $143 or something like that. You could just see when I clicked on the price, 143 right here. See where it says stop price and then limit price right there? They're both the same. You need to make sure that when you're protecting yourself and you have your seatbelt on, you put your stop order in, make sure that your limit price is lower than your stop price when it comes to placing this type of order out there. Stop limit order. You need to make sure you're using that type of order. If you're not using a stop limit order, then just message me on the side. We'll talk about that just otherwise via private chat. If you're on Thinkorswim platform, I believe that they do have a stop limit order, but it might be worded a little differently. So, that's the talking point with setting your stop order, making sure, A, you're trying to use a stop limit order, right? Stop limit order. And, there's two parts to that type of order, right? You got the stop part and then the limit part. Make sure the limit is underneath the stop by a number of pennies, here, like 5, 10 cents or something like that. It's going to give you a much better ability to at least get yourself stopped where you should. If you're using a stop market order and, you're keeping it really tight, just pennies, it's going to be a lot easier for you to see yourself getting stopped out. That is where at least I would then say, well, we would need to at least see where you're getting in from. Because if you're getting stopped out very frequently, maybe you're using the right type of order, but maybe then it draws back to the entries. And we're like, all right, well, you're not entering where you should be, where you could be, and let's tighten that up because it's going to really take you a long way with holding on afterwards. So excellent question that came in from Kumar there. And there's a lot to talk about stop orders. Again, I talk about that a lot more even within the phase 2 curriculum. So. All right, so let's keep it moving though here. That was a great question from Wendy. There we go. Wendy wrote right away, looks like you're cold in Florida. I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt right now, Wendy. Look at me. I'm wearing a long sleeve right now. It's these 10 inches in Louisiana. Yeah, Panhandle's getting crushed right now. It's crazy. I think next week is 70s again, but that's nuts, right? Wendy says, kids would be happy, not road workers trying to clear it with not too many plows. That's true. That's true. I hope to make traders talk today. It is a conflicting time for me most days, but if you could talk about Stargate and the stocks that you feel to watch regarding Stargate. All right, Star Wars, Star Trek, Stargate, whatever they're calling it, right? You got the big announcement with the AI infrastructure. I'm being stupid when I say it that way, of course. Stargate is the official name of it. And, right away when that news came out, a bunch of different trades popped, right? So NVIDIA, ARM, Oracle, those were the 3 name brand companies that were popping at the time. Let me see if I can get you the full-fledged report here. Here we go. Shares of AI tech companies are trading higher after reports that President Trump will announce private sector AI infrastructure investment. It's called Stargate, up to $500 billion into Stargate over the next 4 years. OpenAI, which is private company, SoftBank, which I think is private, and then Oracle, obviously ORCL public. So the public companies that ended up making a pretty good move right away when that news broke, it was NVIDIA, it was Oracle, it was ARM, which is up 14% today. That's flying. So let me just show that pretty briefly. Or flew earlier this morning, flew past tense, but great pop on that this morning. Those are your larger cap AIs to work with. I don't know how related this one is with Stargate, but of course, just from 2 days ago, news came out with Nancy Pelosi, the world's greatest trader. She bought shares of TEM. So TEM is an AI company, Tempest AI, and they had a crazy pop right away when she announced her purchase. So maybe that could play in part with the AI infrastructure deal. I'm trying to look at Benzinga right now to see if there's any other stocks they kind of group Stargate with here. Like they're saying Oracle, NVIDIA, ARM, Microsoft, of course, I'm sure a company like Palantir would do well off of this news as well. Um, this might be OTC, but the SoftBank one, yeah, that's OTC there. SFTB, that's an OTC stock. So I'd say for right now, Wendy, it's an excellent question to ask, but from what I've seen so far, at least, your main ones that are reacting off of this news are Nvidia, ARM, Oracle. If you want to group like Microsoft, Palantir with those would be a good 5 to work with. Now, could small cap stocks get the rub off of this news headline? Of course, and that's what we were trading yesterday. Like, look at Soon, S-O-U-N. This had a slingshot in the morning yesterday, right? But it's more about what happened in the afternoon. After that news broke, SoundHound AI had a great move up into the close. Like, one of our students, Alex, got like 60, 65 cents on it. Hell of a push. So that's one that we're very familiar with. BBAI, smaller cap one, that there's a chance for that to go to. I say this not to Wendy as much even because she's been in and out of her room for a long time now, and alongside her, a lot of us have as well. As a new student, you're going to familiarize yourself with these sympathy plays, stocks within a sector that may or may not pop off of big news headlines like this. So when you think about AI, it's like right away, it's like, okay, well, what are the biggest AI companies out there? Well, we just said them: Nvidia, Oracle. You do like a Palantir, ARM, Microsoft. Now, from the ones that we've traded inside our live trading room, Soon is probably the best smaller cap AI stock. BBAI, for what it's worth, is actually pretty good too. This has been on a nice run from end of last year, pretty good swing. There's others, though, that will pop up. What I don't want you to do, though, I'm not saying this to Wendy, I'm saying this to everyone here. What I don't want you to do is to just try and fish for the next possible big runner. Maybe it can go. It says AI in the name. Guys, if it's not trending up, we don't want to have any business with it. If it's making lower lows, there's other stocks that are moving better. If the stock has a good spread, all right, nice, game on. If the stock has a 10-cent spread for a $4 price, I'm moving away from that thing. So there's, of course, criteria that's involved with us determining, oh, is this a good AI stock? Is this one? Like, even if we look at BBAI today, maybe BBAI could move off of the Stargate news. Very well can. I'm not saying it can't. It's not doing it right now, though. So is this a good day trade? Has this been a good day trade today? No. But that's just one of the first steps involved with understanding if one is or is not. Like, look at the trend. Maybe later today at like 2:30, like, what if this starts popping back up and starts making a stronger up move? I have zero issue taking a day trade from a higher price level, at least if there's a reason to, if there's conviction behind it. I'm not just jumping in to jump in, but like, if this starts revving up here this afternoon, and I'm like, okay, well, let's just shoot from the hip here and say this resistance for 50-cent level at least, held as resistance as well here. If that could get flipped into support, and this is moving upward heading into the mid-afternoon, you might have a trade. But until it does that, there's no thought, right? So to kind of just answer everyone there for Wendy's question, focus on the ones that are simply moving the best. Don't try and force one out there or try and be ahead of the game. We're always going to miss pops. Just remember that. It's okay to miss pops, but for a stock that is evidently moving because of some sort of news, I'd rather focus on that than try and be speculative and be like, oh, maybe this stock down 1%, possibly, maybe, could pop later. If it's going to, we'll see it. It's as simple as that. Let's keep going, folks. We got a little bit more time, and you know what? We're going to go a little bit more time. It is 1 o'clock on the nose. Let's do our raffle right now. I didn't forget. We got a raffle here. Now, I am basing this off of the 1 hour chart. Oops, what do I got to do? 60 minutes? Say 60 minutes. I'm basing this off of the 1 hour chart here because it shows the closing price at the end of every hour. So you could tell that this candle just opened up here. This is the candle for 1 to 2 o'clock. This is the candle that we're going to base this raffle off of. So for any of our members inside our live trading room, you had the last 50 minutes or so to answer, right? We talked about this from the beginning of Traders Talk here. If you'd missed out, don't worry. We got other raffles going on here otherwise throughout this calendar year. No sweat. Closing price on the SPY at 1 o'clock exactly. 607.31. Who's got a 607 at least? I'm doing a search right now. I got this, folks. Check this out. See? Check this out here. Anna 607.30. Did Jeff hit it head on? Someone get head on here? 607.46. Jeff got close there. One of our students was congratulating Jeff. I thought he nailed it there. Now, Anna's so far the closest, off by a freaking penny, I think. 607.31, right? I don't think it's going to be much closer than a freaking penny. Right? I think Anna C's got it. I think Anna C's got it right here, right? So, show that 607.31. Sorry there, Jeff. No, Anna got it. So congratulations to Anna. She won a 3-pack of coaching. We'll get that scheduled over time. I believe we're already working with Anna just one-on-one, so we'll tack it on to her, membership pack, all that good stuff. But we'll definitely get that going, Anna, soon. So congratulations. We're going to be doing more of that over time. Don't worry. If you had missed out, if you lost, check back with us in a few months. All right, let's keep it going here, folks. We got a couple more questions here, at least, before we wrap. Maybe just one here, finish up. Okay, here we go. So from Margaret, I'd seen this just earlier. Margaret had wrote earlier, asked, just wondered if you could be discussing RGTI, Rigetti, one of the quantum stocks, for today's meeting. Just wants to hear my thoughts. Yeah, absolutely. So RGTI had a good push yesterday. Let me just move back to a 1 minute. All right, so the thing with quantum recently was that, like 2 weeks ago, a week ago, it was Jensen Huang, NVIDIA CEO, saying that quantum is 15 to 30 years away, right? That's why all of these trades spiked down. He's got clobbered like 50, 60%, if not more, over the last couple weeks. Provided the volatility of the run up and then the drop back down, you know that these stocks are still going to be very, very volatile. And I don't mean that in a negative way, right? Hear me out. Like, we know RGTI has a penny spread. We know RGTI has big icebergs at some prices here. This is absolutely tradable based off of liquidity. So as long as it retains that, as long as it doesn't out of nowhere just get like 30-cent spread, this looks pretty damn tradable to me on a day-to-day basis. So this is generally to say, for as much as it ran up, for as much as it ran back down, don't get me wrong, it can keep going down, but there is still a great prospect for a bounce at some point in time. So it doesn't shock me that we got a beginning of a move here from last week. We definitely popped up yesterday. Yesterday, we definitely popped nicely, and we were trying to fill this gap. So as far as like what my thoughts are on the mid to long term with quantum, I like the volatility. It's going to provide a great day trade for us. I'll go as far as saying more days than not, especially RGTI. There's others too that look good. Quantum stocks. QBTS, pretty similar, very tradable. QUBT, sure it has a good spread, but, it's becoming more tradable of late. So those are others that could very well make a similar sympathetic type of move. So there's more than just one. But as far as what the future holds with these, it's definitely the future. I definitely feel like we're going to see a stronger move back up on quantum over time. It is also a bit of a polarizing sector too, similar to just AI in general. People like it, people hate it. There's reasons to like it, there's reasons to hate it. So a lot of people are talking about it with that in mind, right? It's like Elon or Trump, right? Or anyone else that's like polarizing, love or hate. The more chatter that there is, there's going to be movement within the stock, up or down. So that's where I'll just say, hey, if you're bullish on the more near term than longer term, if you're looking for a bounce back up sooner than later here on this stock, all right, well, let's look at our levels here. It looks like basically it peaked at first right around 1275. Pretty nice upwick on this daily candle. And then generally speaking, it was trying to hold under it after and then popped it and ran. So for as much as it broke this consolidation here for a few days, strong pop, ran up well. I would hope for resistance to try and turn into support. Now, it gapped down. It wasn't a clean, sharp break during the regular hours, but by the time it opened up here, it just continued. So it looks like yesterday, this stock ended up breaking over this area And now today, the next daily candle, look what's happening. It's actually doing a good job trying to hold it as support. So let's see. Do we have this? Yeah. It broke over it yesterday. It, grinded on up, I guess, ended up maintaining, but I would have been a little cautious here anyway. Now it's the better talking point is seeing this after it broke as resistance and the stock moved off of it going up. Resistance flipped. Resistance flipped right into support, at least today. That 1274-ish, 1275-ish. That was, again, a nice peak that we had back from mid of December here. Built back up underneath it. That was the breakout. So, you would want to see that hold as support if you're looking for a sharper move today, tomorrow, Friday. That's all I could really tell you, unfortunately, here. So, I don't have too much information about what's ahead with RGTI and their products, their events. One thing I could say, this isn't a Josh opinion, this is just what I see online myself. There are a lot of people that are against quantum and against stocks like RGTI for a reason, but part of the reason is that these people don't see any long-term growth in the company going forward for the next several years. They say they don't have any products to sell, no computers really on the horizon yet that they have to finalize. So a lot of this truly is speculation. I don't know which companies they have officially partnered with. Maybe they have partnered with companies, or maybe there's some sort of funding between the two, investments from companies into this. But at least here, as far as the day trade goes, I still love these stocks as day trades. But at least here, if you're looking for a more immediate bounce or move back up, I would just want to make sure this can get flipped into support here coming up over time. I would just say that. All right, so I think, folks, that pretty much wraps it up, at least for today, for Traders Talk this afternoon, right? So we kind of ran through everything. We got through the coaching raffle, earnings, some trades on the day trades that were, some swing trades, some emails. I did not talk about Bitcoin just yet. How about this? Subscribe. Go right to our YouTube channel, hit the follow, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. But we're going to post a couple more videos throughout this week. Fausto and myself both doing shorts, doing the short form 1 minute videos, and then doing some not long form. I think attention spans have gotten killed over the last many years, but look, a nice 5 to 8 minute video breaking down Bitcoin and what is ahead, at least throughout this calendar year. If you were a member of our live trading room, if you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, you can go there right now, and you may have already seen this, but we posted a Bitcoin video 5-6 months ago. It's already 5 months old at this point, but going over my whole thought process heading into this year. And I'm not trying to be perfect with every micro move that Bitcoin's making, but overall, we've been head on. Overall, we gotten the gist of the move down pat pretty much well. So, there's a lot more to come out of Bitcoin. Stay tuned on that. Go right to our YouTube channel later on throughout this week. We'll have it posted up over time there. Now, Jeff here to finish up. Oh, really quick from Manuel and then Jeff, just catching up with chat here as we finish. So, Manuel is asking, do you buy or sell options on the SPY? You could very well do that. I don't do that as much today, the past week, the past month. I've done that, of course, from last year. There's only so much that you could trade, right? So as a day trader here, I'm mainly focused on what's on the top of the gainers list first. Then there's some stocks that I'm focused on as a swing. If there aren't really many stocks that I'm personally focused on as a swing, and I'm looking at the SPY, if it's at a decent level of support resistance, I have no problem applying our strategy towards just simple puts and calls with the SPY. You could absolutely do that, not just on the SPY, but of course any of these stocks that we've been calling out. So a lot of our students in our trading room just trade options flat out. That's it. So you'll see them chat all throughout our day. But otherwise, though, myself, I'll do some of the more name brand stocks, and I've done the SPY before at least. But there's only so much that your mind can focus on in one sitting at one point in time. So I got all these freaking swing trades here on the top right that you see. For that reason alone, it's been tough for me to even belt out some day trades from earlier in the morning. Jeff asking, what do you think of the new Trump coin? I was trying to go this whole workshop without talking about it. No, I was joking with that. But what do I think of it? I want everyone to take politics aside out of this equation. With the Trump coin, the Melania coin, all the meme coins, take politics out. Left or right, I could not care less what your politics are. If you were against crypto because you thought it was speculative and you saw the pops and drops, and for that reason, for 4 years, 5 years, 7 years, however long, if you've been against crypto for that reason, I can't imagine you being head over heels over Trump coin, Melania coin, whatever coin left and right. There's something called fart coin. You see that? It's actually it's the best performing crypto over the last 6 months. It's called fart coin. That's where we're at in this bull market right now. Am I surprised that we're where we are in this bull market right now? No, not at all. There's so much stupid shit that comes out within the crypto sector each and every bull market. If you've been listening to me, I've been saying from the beginning of last year, 365 days ago, I probably did a video, probably 370 at this point. I think it was mid-January of last year. I did a video detailing at least, a separate video, detailing like 40,000. That's a good buy. We're in the beginning of the bull market right now. That was before the halving. That was before, the ETF. We are not in the beginning of the Bitcoin bull market any longer, folks. If you were just getting into Bitcoin right now, we're not at the end of the bull market, but we're not at the beginning. If we're talking baseball speak here, we're probably in like the fourth inning, probably in the top of the fifth inning, bottom of the fourth, top of the fifth. We got a while to go, don't get me wrong. But where I'm getting at here is this. There is all sorts of stupid crap being posted with all these different coins and meme stuff. 99.9% of them are just pop and drop, pump and dump scandals. Do not get yourself involved. I say that generally speaking, not with politics infused. Now, where we're talking about Trump and all that, I still think it's not a good idea. Granted, if you bought when the meme coin launched, and if you were waiting for him to say something on it, and you caught a good price, and it moved up to $95, and you sold and you made money, I'm not rooting against you making money. I just don't want you to lose your shirt on a highly speculative asset that, from the looks of it, structurally, of how the coin was actually built and made, I think like 88% of the tokens are within one wallet. It's not for me. It's not. I've seen too many people get their accounts blown up on the regular cryptos, and that's at the end of the bull market, that is, at least. It's going to happen a lot faster on the even more speculative meme coins. So, not hating on any politics. I love what we see so far out of everything alike, especially within the stock market. Don't just jump in, especially on something that doesn't provide any real use to it, right? Most of these cryptos alike, let alone Trump or whatever, like most of them don't serve real purpose or use. So, for any of my traders here, like Chuck or, Kathleen or anyone, if you get scared about trying to buy a stock, a publicly traded company, after it's up 100%, I can't imagine you being like super confident about trading like fart coin. You know what I mean? So do as you will, right? Everyone's their own person. I'm always rooting everyone on, by the way. I always got my pom-poms out here for you. I just don't want you to lose your shirt on something that is super highly speculative. That is all. And you could say that with 99% of the crypto out there. Trust me. But, this is where I say, at least, we're not in the beginning of the bull market now. If you're just getting into crypto, we're not just starting right now. And we didn't start when Trump came into office. Bitcoin's not moving because of Trump. Just want to let you know that as well. This would have happened with or without Trump. If you're just getting into crypto now, we are not in the first inning. You're probably in the fourth or fifth inning right now. There's plenty more to go, but just stick with us here inside our live trading room. Follow us each and every day there, and we'll keep you updated with what we're looking at. Fausto's in and out all the time on IBIT. I still think there's a lot more to go. I'll give away the spoiler. I think there's a 250 to 300,000 price target on Bitcoin this bull market. So there's a lot more to go, I believe. Now, we're going to finish up Traders Talk for right now, folks. Little long extended edition here. If you have any questions that you'd want to send over my way, just feel free to shoot me over a quick email, josh@ctutrading.com. You see it there on the lower right. Where is it? Right here? Right here. Again, my webcam fixed right there. Cyber Trading U. Look sure to hit the follow or subscribe button right down below. You see the name right down there, Cyber Trading U. We're here live each and every Monday normally. Obviously, with Martin Luther King Day, we were off. We'll be back on Monday next week with our normal routine. We hope that you enjoyed. We hope that you join us inside our live trading room. For Kathleen, Brad, Michael, Grant, all of our students there right now. Next audio broadcast, I got to catch my breath. 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, heading into later on today. I'll talk to you then, folks. Take care.